Welcome to Putting It Together, the podcast that goes through the entire body of work of Stephen Sondheim, show by show and song by song. My name is Kyle Marshall, your self-described Sondheim expert. And yes, while we normally do go through Sondheim's entire body of work, every month, because of the great people over on Patreon, we are able to do a bonus episode, something that we like to call Sondheim Adjacent. And based on the voting over there, because we are talking about Into the Woods, and Joanna Gleason is such a big part of Into the Woods, we thought we would talk about one of her other projects, and the people over on Patreon voted to talk about Dirty Rotten Scoundrels. The, I believe, 2004 Broadway musical, I think, is when it actually debuted. I thought someone that can actually help talk about this in greater detail is returning guest Jonathan Chisolm. Jonathan, thank you so much for joining me here.
Thanks for having me.
I don't even know where to start here necessarily, but actually, this is a good place to start because we were talking right before we pushed record here that you have been a part of this very show. So I'd love to hear more about your experience doing the show.
Yeah, I did this show back in, I believe it was 2018. It's hard to remember because it was before the pandemic. But I believe it's 2018. I was still living in Georgia, which is where I'm from originally at the time. And a theater in Atlanta was doing the show. And I knew the choreographer, so I went and auditioned. Just for the ensemble, because they usually cast their leads ahead of time. I didn't expect to get it because I'm not really an ensemble person, but I guess they liked me, so I ended up doing it it was just like a month, maybe I forget. I think they only do like 3 weekends or so, but it was a really fun show. And the thing I thought was the most interesting at the time, just as a musical theater nerd, was like how the show is so like structured of like here are the principals doing what they're doing here, and then the ensemble is doing something completely different over here.
Yeah. So just to like maybe spoil my feelings for this show, I had such a blast watching this show. There's a bootleg on YouTube that people can go and search for, like Dirty Rotten Scoundrels slime tutorial. You'll find it. It is such a delight, and this is proving that I have such a bias when there is a musical based on what I thought was just a movie, but a musical based on a movie, and they keep the same name. For some reason, for the vast majority, and I'm just talking about myself here, I just like, lazy, uninspired, probably not going to be very good. This is a really good musical. I'm going to just say it straight up. I think it's really good, well written, really funny. The lyrics and music are great. I don't know if you have anything special to say about David Yazbek at all, but I mean, he's very well known in musical theater as well.
Yes, of course. And I think he is one of the best writers we have for comedy in musical theater, and for writing funny songs that are funny, not just, ironic or whatever. He's also pretty versatile in the types of shows that he's written. I mean, like they often are all comedies, but then you get something like The Band's Visit, which is,
right.
Not exactly a comedy. It is funny.
Not a laugh riot. Let's just call it that.
Right. But I love his music. I think he's got a really great ear for like a hook. And then his lyrics are usually are often quite smart and very intelligent. And when they're not, there's usually a reason why they're not.
Yeah, just to go over it for people who are wondering what other stuff he has written and maybe you don't know the name very well. So, The Full Monty, Dirty Rotten Scoundrels, Women on the Verge of a Nervous Breakdown, The Band's Visit, Tootsie. Those are the ones that have been produced for Broadway. Apparently he's working on this new one. It's just an original show called Dead Outlaw that did some stuff at 54 Below last year. I have no idea what that is, but it sounds interesting.
I'm always excited for a new David Yazbek show, so hopefully it'll come around.
The other thing that I was not expecting with this show quite as much is that there are quite a few fourth wall breaks throughout this entire show. Like at least in the Broadway version that I watched, like there's a moment where who you think is an usher in the aisles starts singing. There's a point where Norbert Leo Butz, where he actually is talking to audience members. They open up Act 2 by kind of just replaying the last 15 seconds of how Act 1 ended. And they're like, didn't we do this already? So like there's all these things about kind of commenting on what has already happened. So yeah, fun, kind of super light show that is super funny.
Yeah. And it's, I mean, and having been in it, I mean, even so many years after it premiered, it was still very audience pleasing. Audiences left. I mean, it was always fun to hear that amount of laughter.
We'll get into like the actual plot here in a few minutes because I want to talk about some other stuff here first. But I just want to call out as well how this show is kind of a magic trick. I think about this for the movie as well. Whereas the actual setup of this show is two guys scamming women out of money. Like that is really what the show is about. And yet, and I mean, it's called Dirty Rotten Scoundrels, so I think you should know going in kind of what to expect.
Mm-hmm.
And at the same time, you're kind of like, oh, they're kind of lovable. They're fun. Like, I'm kind of on their side. I hope they get their money. It's just really weird. On the face of it, wouldn't think that you'd be like rooting for them somewhat to get this money.
Yeah, I mean, I guess it goes along with the trend in media of we love the lovable kind of rogue, so to speak. I mean, just people who they're not doing the right thing, but they're just so charming and captivating and fun that it's the idea of like, oh, they're going to give us hell, but we're going to have a good time while they do it.
I think that there is this thing too where we are open to that rogue, to that like ne'er-do-well, if I can use an old-timey word, if they have a bit of a code to it, right? It's like, we're only scamming people that are super rich. I'm not scamming people that are like middle class poor, or like, that's not what I'm looking for. I'm looking for the people who are obscenely rich, who can afford to lose 50 grand and they're not going to notice it. Like, that's kind of who they're hitting up on this thing. So we get to like, oh, it's kind of like a Robin Hood sort of thing, even though it's not. Like, they're just doing it for themselves, but like, we can kind of get on board with that.
Yeah, I mean, they always need their save the cat kind of like, this is the moment. This is like, we will not like cross this line. Like when we know, and it's almost a deal with the audience. When you're dealing with characters like this, we know the line that they will not cross. So it allows us to feel like, oh, well, then we can have fun with them.
Now, do you know the somewhat history of this storyline? Like, do you know how many times this storyline has been adapted?
It's been adapted a lot. And even after this musical. Yes.
So this is the web I got like strung into. Like, I got into such a rabbit hole with this because I had no idea that this was like based on something which was based on something. In a weird way, this is kind of become A Star Is Born, which just gets remade every 25 years for some reason. I'm always fascinated by those stories. As like, oh, we're just doing another one of these, I guess, again, for some reason. So for those who are unaware, like I was up until about a week ago, the original story was written for this film called Bedtime Story, which was released in 1964. And if you know the conceit of like older con artist who's like suave and debonair, and then kind of like a younger swindler who is kind of like uncouth and like not as meticulous sort of thing. So in 1964, we have David Niven in kind of that older role, and Marlon Brando as like the young upstart guy who's coming into the territory. So I watched this movie. Have you seen this movie, by the way? This 1964 film?
I have not seen the Bedtime Story.
I don't blame you, because it is nearly impossible to find.
Yeah.
I mean, like, it's not streaming anywhere. You can't even purchase it or rent it from any of like the digital platforms. I think there is a DVD release I saw, but I'm not going to buy a DVD for something I know I'm only going to watch once. So I was like, I don't want to do that. I'm not proud of this, ladies and gentlemen. I did find a website, probably not as trustworthy as you'd want it to be, that I could actually watch this movie on. And this is going to sound like I am exaggerating, but I want everyone to know that I mean this literally, that every 3 minutes 30 seconds of ads would play. So they got a lot of money out of me. It's basically what I'm trying to say. I like literally at the 3-minute mark, 30 seconds of ads, 6-minute mark, 30 seconds of ads. So I will say maybe my enjoyment of this movie was diminished somewhat from the fact that I had to watch, like, I think I figured it out, something like 20 minutes of ads while watching this movie. It's like, okay, let's keep going. So it's the same basic concept. I will say, as we go through this, I'm going to mention what things get changed in each iteration. But the same thing is kind of similar here. We have David Niven faking being this prince that can't go back to his country because it's in civil war. And basically he gets these lovely women who have a lot of money to get on his side and give them their jewelry or something that costs a lot of money so that he can pawn it for money to give to his own lifestyle. That's the scam. He's just getting women to give them jewelry so he can continue doing this thing. The slight difference which we'll find out is that in this version, Marlon Brando literally is an American soldier. So he is an American GI that's over in, I want to say Italy, but I can't remember. Whatever country they're actually in this movie. But then the same basic concept goes on. The other big difference between this and the musical is that the subtext is David Niven is trying to get rid of him the entire time. Like, he doesn't want Marlon Brando there at all. So he doesn't like take him under his wing and like they conspire together. He's continually trying to get him to leave. And then finally, yes, we get this young heiress that comes in and they make this deal, like whoever gets the money from her first kind of wins the territory sort of thing. Now, the wrinkle is that in the original film, Marlon Brando and this woman actually do fall in love with each other legitimately. And so at the end, they go off together to live happily ever after. And David Niven just stays where he is and continues scamming old women out of their money. I will say overall, the movie it's fine. I wasn't like super in love with it. There's some legitimately funny moments. I'm a big David Niven fan, so I think it just goes a long way. I think his charm it works on me for whatever reason.
Sure.
But as a template, it's like, okay, yeah, I can see the inherent comedy that's in this. My biggest complaint, and we'll hear this kind of repeatedly through this, all of the women are complete idiots in the movie, and it kind of bugs me a little bit that there's not one woman that shows up that's like, I'm actually smart and I can hold my own. They're just all dumb and stupid. So it's like this kind of a product of its time from the 1960s. So that's a bit of a drag. But you know, there's some fun performances, some fun comedy. Would never predict that this would then spawn 3 other adaptations of this same material. I think most people will be more familiar with the remake that happens in the 80s called Dirty Rotten Scoundrels that stars Michael Caine as the older gentleman and then Steve Martin as the younger one. Have you seen that movie?
Yes, I have. I think I watched it for the, I'm sure I'd seen parts of it, but I think I watched the whole thing. I did the show.
What are your thoughts on that movie?
I mean, I think it's very funny. I think you've got Steve Martin probably at the height of his powers being.
Let me say, like, this is him really at the zenith of his bankability.
Michael Caine has just continuously always been a wonderful actor. He's one of those actors who's like, even if the movie's terrible, he's usually pretty good.
Yeah, I know. Yeah.
I remember really liking it a lot. And I mean, it adhered fairly closely, the musical adheres fairly closely to that version.
Yes.
With some distinct changes, but
some very distinct changes. But I think we'll get to that in a moment. I guess, again, to ruin my opinion, I actually think the musical does this material the best because I think it does some very smart changes in adaptation that actually make it better for me, maybe at least for a contemporary audience. For the movie version of Dirty Rotten Scoundrels, directed by Frank Oz, by the way, the voice of Miss Piggy and Fozzie Bear, as well as Yoda, people will know, but he was also a film director. He directed a bunch of stuff, including A Little Shop of Horrors or The Little Shop of Horrors. So I will say, having just rewatched the movie this past week, I kind of have some similar misgivings about it as the original movie. I think it does some smart changes in that it does give one of the women more agency. So they actually kind of flip it where she is actually conning the con men, which I actually think is a smart change.
It's a good twist for sure.
It's a good twist. By the way, we're going to spoil Dirty Rotten Scoundrels here for you. But yeah, I think that's a smart change of having the person that they're going after and having this contest with is actually playing them at the same time. It just gives it that little bit of flair so it doesn't feel like all women are stupid within this universe.
Right. I agree with that.
I will say then the other version that I did not watch, so I'm not going to mention it very much at all here, but there is a 2019 film called The Hustle, which is based on the exact same thing. The wrinkle here is that they've done a gender swap. So it's Anne Hathaway and Rebel Wilson in the two roles, who are scamming men out of their money now at this point. But have you seen this movie at all?
I haven't seen it beyond like the clips that they played when it was like being promoted. And I thought that what I saw of those was funny. I mean, I like both of them as I like Anne Hathaway as an actress, and I think Rebel Wilson can be very funny. So it's always been one of those movies that I'm like, maybe one of the day I'll watch it, but it's not like something that like screamed out for me.
Yeah, it's not high on my list. It does not look like it was reviewed very well either by critics or by audiences. So
sure.
as something that I need to watch, I was like, I can probably skip this for now. Although I will say, just as a side tangent, I've never really understood the huge backlash against Anne Hathaway. I quite like her as an actress, but yes, that's a side point.
No, I agree. I mean, I don't it's sometimes people are, I also think she's a very talented actress, and, just, and it just depends. Every role is different. Every project is different. So it's like, do I like her in this? I don't know. We'll see.
Now, one thing that is true about those first two adaptations, as well as this musical, is that there is a role that we see at the very beginning of a woman who is like, yeah, I'm like a freedom fighter. I'm helping this like exiled prince, fight back against these evil forces. That character is the one who basically tips off the younger con artist that he is also being conned, right? So basically the older con artist has kind of convinced the younger guy to go and leave him be, and he's either on a plane or on a train ready to leave when this older woman character comes on. He's like, are you with the prince as well? He's got so much money. And then the younger guy's like, oh wait, I'm going to stay and I'm going to figure out what's going on. So that character is the character that Joanna Gleason plays in the musical version, which they then expand a bit. So there is actually more of a storyline that character actually gets in this musical, and in fact gets to have a romance with the chief of police, which is also a character in the other two versions, but a very small role, like doesn't really figure into the plot all that much. So that's expanded. This is just a great featured actor-actress stuff that can happen in a musical, where they can have their own kind of storyline that's going through the musical that sometimes will intersect with what the main storyline is.
Right.
And also, in my opinion, it's one of the better songs in the score as well. I think her opening song is quite beautiful. Have you seen the bootleg of this show at all?
Yes, I have.
Okay, so let's talk about Joanna Gleason's performance in this. Like, this is absolutely a supporting performance. She's probably on stage for a grand total of maybe 15 minutes throughout this 2.5 hour show, or 2 hours and 20 minutes. But as far as Joanna Gleason goes, how do we feel about her performance in this?
I mean, I think the reason the character is as good as it is because of Joanna Gleason's involvement from the beginning of the project. I remember years ago listening to an interview she was giving at the time she was doing the show, and she really was responsible for talking to the creatives about, making this role a little bigger, having a little more agency herself,
right?
And the romance with the chief of police, while it wasn't her idea, it was kind of grew naturally through collaborations with the creatives and things like that. So I think it's really tailored to what she does really well as an actress, as a comedic actress specifically.
Yeah, I think she leans into the comedy so well, kind of this very natural comedian or comedic skills that she brings into this role. And I think you're right in calling this out, that she probably did have a bit of cachet to probably push for some meatier stuff to dig into here, because I could see this in, a different creative's hands, or maybe if an actress didn't feel comfortable speaking up and recommending things, that this would be just another like nothing role that this person would be being brought into. She also, weirdly enough, at least in the bootleg I watched, gets one of the bigger ovations at the end of the night as well. Just again, with only so little time actually up on stage. But the little she's on stage, she maximizes every second being up there.
Well, right. And also, I mean, that also might have something to do with the fact that I believe this is maybe her return to a musical after Into the Woods. I
Oh,
mean,
could be.
I don't think she'd done a whole lot of other stuff on stage after Into the
Oh,
Woods.
I think there was another one called Nick and Nora that I was looking at.
But that was notoriously not very
Yeah,
successful.
I was gonna say I think that was a flop. So
Yeah. So that might have something to do with it. But also, yeah, you're exactly right. I think she takes, every moment on stage and takes it to its maximum level of efficiency.
So let's go through here some of the songs that we have. So we open up the show after the overture, of course, with this song called "Give Them What They Want," which is this kind of setting the stage here, right? We have John Lithgow up there, kind of describing what his grift is, right? Like how he is scamming people. I do like the fact that he mentions that he's a David Niven type. Like that's what one of the lyrics is, that he emulates David Niven in his style. So it's a nice little callback to the original film.
And remember this, you're giving them what they want. Zabazooey. Giving them what they want, an adventure all their own. Giving them what they want, like they're in a movie. And never forget that what they want is half smile.
Demi so real.
David Niven
Put on a
bold countenance, was tragic and amused. High style,
Hey, come here, fool.
that's a given.
And don't forget.
All I'm doing is I'm giving them what they want. I do bazooty, specifically what they want. All tied up with a bow. For as the poet said, Keats,
Truth is beauty.
and that is all you really need to know.
You're great.
This lady is Lenore.
I agree with that. And also, I mean, that plays with a really great thing John Lithgow also just does as a comedic, when he's doing a comedic performance. Even though he's not British particularly, but
I know what you're saying though. There's those people who you think are British for a long time. It's like, oh, you're not. You're just like, you're totally American. But for some reason, I figured you were British.
he has that he plays sophisticated very well, and he always has.
The thing with John Lithgow that I find so fascinating is you're right. I totally agree that he can play that sophistication to a T, but he can also do the exact opposite of being like just the total buffoon. Like he can play both of those sides so incredibly well. Of course, I grew up watching Third Rock from the Sun, so seeing him just be a complete doofus week to week is always in my thoughts. Yeah, so it kind of lays the stage down of what we can expect here for the other night. There's something else I was going to say about that. The interesting thing I think it's probably due to the not great audio for that bootleg. I do think that the cast album shows off his vocals way better. I don't know if this was late in the run or something, but there were a few times where I was like, ooh, I don't know if you actually hit that note right or not,
yeah.
But you never know it's a bad night.
He's a very good singer. I mean, because he went on, he's done several musicals beyond just this one, and he's a very good singer. I mean, he's definitely an actor who sings, but it's very melodic and easy to listen to.
Then we get kind of like that scene on the train, right? Of there's two things happening, which is the two men have now met. The younger guy kind of figures out what's going on, but at the same time, we get what was a woman to do, which is one of Joanna Gleason's songs. I love this song. I have to say, this is the one I've been actually listening to a lot the last few days. I just, again, love the melody. I think it's super funny. Oh, now I'm going to forget exactly how she phrases it, but it's like, his teeth were white like picket fences, and they scared me as he advances, or something like that. Like it's like it's kind of funny how she's describing this man of being like, I was attracted to him, but he was also kind of scary.
This was at last I knew my rendezvous with history. What was a woman? What was a woman to do? And when he smiled, he lit the night with grace and confidence. His teeth were clean and straight and white, just like a picket fence. I couldn't look directly at them, they were that intense. What was a woman? What was a woman to do?
Yeah, I think it's a perfect kind of counterbalance to the opening number, because it shows you the kind of the opposite. If this is what he does, and this is how he affects the people who he does that to. And Muriel, which is the character's name, I really makes kind of serves on a certain level as the face of all of the women that he's grifted.
100%. Yeah. She really is the one who's like the through line throughout the entire thing. This is one of the fourth wall breaks that happens. I already mentioned that this is one of the moments where like an usher at the front of the house will stand up and start singing at the same time. So basically she's saying like this really attractive man said that he was in the second balcony, but I put him right there in J13 or whatever the seat number is that she mentions. So that's what must have been a thrill for anyone who was actually sitting in that seat every night, I would think.
Yeah, I mean, I think there was something in the air with musical comedies in the early 2000s of doing that, because several shows did that. Like The Producers has a handful of moments that does that. So it's like, but I mean, when they're well done, they're very, very funny. And I think in this case, in this song, that one was a very, very funny moment for sure.
I will say though, when it works, it totally works on me. I was invited to a friend's Christmas party, and they work at this like really fancy, like lawyer place, a law firm, the lawyer place. So it was very swanky and all that kind of stuff. Should not have been there. I stuck out like a sore thumb. I remember sitting down and I'm looking around, and there's like waiters come around, but there's a group of waiters that are like, I'm going to call waiters in quotations. I'm like, I think they're about to start to sing. Like it's like, you're not actually doing waiter stuff. Like you're dressed as waiters, but you're like obviously not doing anything. You're holding like a jug of water, but it's like you're not actually going around and milling about. And sure enough, what happens like 30 seconds later, microphone grabbed, and it's like this big flash mob sing, song, dance, which I loved. But I was like, boy, did I call that one coming from a mile away.
They're hard to pull off, but but like we said, when they are done really well, and especially it's easier in new shows, because obviously there are certain shows now that people know. I mean, it's like the one I think, like when Rose comes storming down the aisles in the beginning of Gypsy, everyone, if you know Gypsy, you're expecting her to come storming down the aisles. So everyone's now looking for her.
It's just like gawking around. Where is she coming come from?
Right, exactly.
I want to be swept past by Patti LuPone. Damn it! Then we get the Tony performance of Great Big Stuff. This is what they show off on the Tony Awards that year. I should look it up. What was this nominated against for the 2004 Tony Awards?
Oh, Lord.
Let's find out.
I was going to say, where's Matt Koplik when we need him?
Oh, yeah, he would probably know off the top of his head. Oh, of course I should know this. It was the year Spamalot won. That's
right. It was like that spread year.
Yeah, but wait a second. I'm looking at the other. This was a very tough year. Like some people call like the previous year where it was like Avenue Q, Caroline or Change, and Wicked, like a tough year. I actually think that this might have a run for its money because, I mean, not to throw shade at Spamalot, which is fun, but it might be my least favorite of these nominees because you have Dirty Rotten Scoundrels, The Light in the Piazza, and the 25th Annual Putnam Country Spelling Bee, which are wonderful shows.
Those are wonderful shows, yeah.
Still would not have had Dirty Rotten Scoundrels win, but
sure.
It's interesting that Spamalot is the one that wins out of those.
Yeah, I think Dirty Rotten Scoundrels won in the categories that it probably was going to win in, which I know Norbert Leo won, obviously.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, he wins best. Is it featured actor or lead actor? What is he considered here?
I think it's lead.
It is lead. Yeah, him and John Lithgow are both in the lead category.
And I mean, and if you get a sense of it, even just from the Tony performance of how just kind of like you get kind of like, oh, this is what this is, and it's really, and it works. It's very funny.
Coming here, I found a world I've never seen before. Now I know where I belong. A life of taste and class, with culture and sophistication, pouring out my ass. What do I want? I want this. I want this. I want this. I thought I had a real gift, that penny anti-grift, but Freddie's getting ready now to give his life a lift. I'm tired of being a chump. I wanna be like Trump. 200 pounds of caviar in one gigantic lump. Give me great big stuff. This is how I gotta live. Great big stuff.
What's wonderful about this is that up until this point, yes, there's been some comedy, but it is very like traditional musical theater at this point. And then this is where we get to see this character infuse it with his own personality, where he's like, I love this class because it's coming out my ass. Like he just like hammers home that line. And I think from that point on, you can be like, as an audience member, like, oh, okay, so we're going to actually, we're not going to be like a stuffy musical going past this. We're going to have a little bit of fun with this material.
Right. And also, I mean, it musically, it contrasts very nicely with what we've heard up to this point, like even just from John Lithgow's character and his
That's
musical
true.
style. So which they are meant to be very obviously in this odd couple in a weird way of like real sophistication and then just, street smart brashness.
Well, I think it goes to Sondheim's maximum of content dictates form a lot, right? You have a man who's very classic, elegant, so that's what his songs should sound like. And we have another guy who's a little bit of a slob, brash sort of thing, so that's what his music should sound like. And I think it's nice that it kind of tries to meld those two styles together.
No, absolutely.
We then get into, so once they decide, this is one of the changes that the musical does, but I think it's actually a smart change as far as adaptation goes, because instead of getting mired too much into this subplot of trying to get like the older guy getting rid of the younger guy, he kind of just right away says like, hey, let's just team up and see if we can make this work. Because again, you only have so much time in this musical because we have songs and that sort of thing, that I think that would have just gotten into the weeds a bit too much. We can just get to the point, hey, they're going to team up anyway, so let's get them to team up and then have the partnership dissolve in Act 2. Like that's kind of how we're setting this up. But the song that we're talking about is Chimp in a Suit. This is where the chief of police gets this thing about the fact like, you can dress this guy up, he's still going to be a slob. Or a chimp in a suit in this case.
I love that song so much. It makes me it's so sweet. And like it's just like smartness.
Yeah, there's some fun little wordplay that goes on in that song too, because he rhymes chimp in with a lot of stuff. That's his like that's what Yazbek likes to rhyme a bunch of stuff with. We then move on to Oklahoma because it's a question mark at the end. I have to think they do this intentionally because Oklahoma, the musical, is usually with an exclamation point at the end. So this is a song called Oklahoma with a question mark because one of their first people they're trying to scam wants to basically get married to the older gentleman, to the John Lithgow character. And she's like, come and live with me in Oklahoma. It's going to be so great to go and live in Oklahoma.
No, I remember that was that song. I wasn't, thank the Lord. Or was I? I don't remember. I don't think I was in that song, but that was one of those moments when we were doing the show that I was like, there's the ensemble. There's like 4 scenes in a row where it's just constant, like, okay, change.
Yeah, I guess you have to move the set and stuff around. Like, there's a lot of movement that goes around in this show.
I mean, we had some stagehands, but it was mostly us, and it works really well in this show because the ensemble is often, like the bellhops, in the hotels, or just on a road somewhere. But it definitely, this song definitely kind of comes out of almost comes out of left field in a certain sense, in a good way. But it's like, it kind of perks the audience up a little bit.
Don't you love it when the bobcats howl? Don't you love it when the coyotes call? Well, I know a few tricks with a 30-06. You can watch me blow those little fuckers' heads clean off. And then, oh boy, oh, we'll go two-stepping through the, oh boy, oh, watch what you stepping, 'cause them cattle eat their share, and it's gotta go somewhere. My little piece of heaven, Oklahoma.
This is the one that she drops an F-bomb in, isn't it?
Yes,
I think it is. Yeah. Which I actually have to say did shock me a little bit. Like, oh, I didn't think we were going to go here with this show. I clutched my pearls and everything. But this is also this is actually my favorite fourth wall break of the entire show, because Norbert Leo Butz has actually climbed into one of the balconies at this point and is like watching what's going on stage. And she says like, we're going to get married. He's like, did we forget to do a scene? Like he's like very confused about why they're getting married all of a sudden. Then we get into, oh, that's right, all about Ruprecht, because now they're going to pretend that they're siblings, and that if he's going to move to Oklahoma, he has to bring his younger brother along, who, I don't know what the nice way of saying this is, simple, I guess, for lack of a better word. Like there's something going on with him.
Yes. It's really just it's a great way to just allow Norbert Leo Butz to really just go hog wild with some just insane character actor stuff.
I will say too, talking about Norbert Leo Butz, one of my favorite just actors all around. I think he's done some great musical theater roles, of course. I have been loving seeing him pop up in different movies over the last couple of years. Every time he shows up, I'm like, oh, it's Norbert Leo Butz. He's so good. Oh, yeah. And he always nails it.
Yeah, he's a very versatile actor. From playing something like this to then doing, like, he was the original Fiyero in Wicked, and
that's right.
And then, like you said, all his TV and film work as well. He's one of those actors that I always enjoy. It's one of those, I'm always excited to see him.
What was his last theater role? I was going to say, oh yeah, he came back to do the My Fair Lady revival back in 2018.
Right, he did do that.
Yeah, and he's doing something called Cornelia Street. I don't know what that is. It says 2023, but I have literally no idea what that is.
No, I haven't heard of that either.
Maybe someone can catch him in theater sometime this year, or did already. Who knows? We move on from that. She's frightened and runs off, so they're able to swindle her appropriately. There's like What Was a Woman to Do reprise that Joanna Gleason gets to come out again, kind of talking about what she's been up to. Kind
of like being like, remember me, I'm here.
Really is, because her she used to do more stuff in Act 2. But yeah, she basically has to come out here in Act 1, just to laying out a plot. It's like, remember she's important. We'll get back to her storyline in a minute. And then we kind of come back to the main story, where we get to meet our other female lead of Christine, and she gets to sing Here I Am. So it's a great entrance song of like, yeah, like, I'm going to really important to this plot. Here I am. This is like, I think she still is, even in the musical, the Dairy Princess or something, I think is what they call her. She's like going over some sort of fortune from America.
Yeah, I think, isn't it the Soap Queen?
Soap Queen. You're right. Totally right. Yes.
I only remember that because we had to sing the part, the Soap Queen, that part. But no, it's a great, like, for, and it's also, and this is a hard thing to do when you have essentially your third lead, and who doesn't show up for like the first 40 minutes of the play.
I'm going to say, like, she shows up late into this first act.
And so you got to kind of shoot her out of a cannon and be like, and make the audience like her almost immediately. And it's a really well done charm song that's also very subversively smart in, like, when you go back to the show knowing everything we know about her.
Yes.
It lays it actually lays clues out very well.
Bunch of clues, yeah.
Which is really cool.
Yeah, I love that. I love that stuff.
Somebody even pointed out to me once that the whole thing where they were like, she's arrived, and then she's here, and then they're like, where is she? And then she's like, oh no, that's me.
Yeah.
And you realize she's been in the crowd the whole time. Somebody pointed out to me, oh, she's deceiving us from the very first time we see her.
Yeah. I like, that's a smart thing about that, right? Of being able to lay those hints without it tipping your hand too much. Like, I suppose if you were like super familiar with the 80s movie, you kind of know already going in that she's not who she says she is. But for any new audience, and younger audiences especially, it's like, I think this is going to be a shock when you get to the end and be like, oh wait, she's been scamming them the entire time. And if you see it again, it's like, oh wait, it was like they kind of told us right here at the very beginning. That's such a cool trick to do.
What Sherry Renee Scott does really well in the original production, that's who plays Christine, obviously, is she manages to walk the line of, is she, you never really know where she's standing. Like, is she really this stupid or is she not? And it's really smart how she does that.
And that's the thing. Like, this is where I think the evolution of this storyline has gotten better over time. you go back to Bedtime Story where, yep, she's just that stupid the entire time. Like that's just what the character is. And in the 80s movie, it subverts that by like, that's what you think the character is until the very end. And I would say the musical kind of does that, but I do think that she's never shown as stupid. Maybe a little naive is like peppered into her character, but she doesn't come across as dumb ever, I don't think, in this show.
No. It's a very fine line to walk, and I think they do it very well. Mm-hmm. And I think that's a combination of writing and performance.
We then go into the "Nothing Is Too Wonderful to Be True" song. This is with Christine and Freddie, the younger con artist. I'm trying to remember what happens in this song because I think they've already started their competition with her, where he's pretending to be a soldier in a wheelchair who can't walk. Yeah, I guess that's the first thing. He comes out in the wheelchair that he says he can't walk, and so I think this is a song between the two of them.
Each moment opens like a flower. The age of miracles comes every hour on the hour. Turn any corner, there's something new, and nothing is too wonderful to be true. If I'm perceived to be naive, to be the way I am, let people say I am a silly goof. Is life a plateful? Am I grateful? Every day I am. It's an amazing world in which we live, and I've got living proof. Look at the way.
Yeah, it's kind of their meet cute. It's and kind of their dancing around, metaphorically dancing around each other, kind of figuring, like two dogs sniffing each other in a weird way.
Right. And then we end off with the finale, The Miracle, which is the whole company coming together. And basically the big reveal after this song is the fact that the older con artist is now going to pretend to be the doctor who can cure the younger one from to be able to walk. That's the wrinkle in the comedy that happens in this.
It's a good dramatic thing to like end the act on.
Yes.
But also, to just tie it back slightly, it does allow for one of my personal favorite fourth wall break jokes, which is Joanna Gleason coming back on stage and saying something along the lines of, "Oh, I just couldn't leave yet. I'm sure I'll be needed sometime in Act 2."
Oh, that's right. Yeah, she did.
It's my
she says that to the
maitre,
not the maitre d', the person at the counter.
The
yeah,
concierge.
It's perfect. It's like, I'm sure I'm going to be needed in Act 2. It's so good. It's so funny.
It always made me laugh every time. Mm-hmm. It still does.
Oh, one thing I totally blew past, not that we need to belabor that, but going back to that, the Tony performance song of Great Big Stuff, it is interesting how, because they mentioned Donald Trump in that song. He says, like, I want to be like Trump, which definitely has a different connotation now that he has become president, sort of thing. So I'm interested
when I did the show. I mean, we did it in 2018, and that was still the lyric as it was. I mean, I don't think it's been changed because I do think
it should be changed to be clear, but like I still think it works.
I think somebody like Freddie would admire Donald Trump. That like that idea of like that his not to get political in any way, but the idea of Donald Trump's persona of like money and machoism and that sort of thing, I think the character of Freddie would very much admire.
And, bilking people out of money for fake things. Yeah, I mean, it's all there.
Yeah, exactly.
Not to get political. I'm just saying that.
No, I think when we did it, our Freddie really made sure to like lean into like, he did like a gesture like Trump. I don't know, he without doing an impression of Trump, he kind of embodied Trump in that moment, which was very funny.
So then we open up Act 2, we get the entr'acte, but then it is the song called Roughhausen meet Schuffhausen, which is, this happens in all the movie adaptations as well, where the person who is pretending to be in a wheelchair and the doctor who comes in has like a little switch who like is hitting, or a ruler sometimes, is just smacking the legs, be like, look, he's not feeling anything. And so he's just like causing the younger guy more and more pain to try and get him to break, and he won't break. So that's basically the whole joke of this, is that he's hitting the guy and trying to get him to show that he actually can feel.
When I was young and I was cute and I was in the institute, they banged it in us like a drum, the Corpus Hippocraticum. So just before you graduate, you raise your hand and stand up straight, and everybody has to quote that zippy Hippocratic oath. You swear to God to heal the sick, but do no damage, that's the trick. Even if you have to lop a leg, or God forbid, an arm, if it's for the best, go crack a chest, or slice them open like a vest. But first, do no harm. Yodelay. Nothing. Nope.
Yeah, I call this song "How Many Ways Can We Torture Freddy?"
Yeah, right. I'm actually curious, and maybe it's just so simple. How do they do that without actually smacking the other person's legs? Like, are they like what is the prop that they're using that it doesn't like actually hurt? Because obviously it doesn't.
Yeah, I honestly I can't remember, but I mean it might have something to do with also because his legs are covered, like he maybe has I
bet you're right.
Yeah, so it might have something to do with that, or it's not it looks like a switch, but it's not a switch, and then it's a sound effect. So even when they hit him, it doesn't actually,
Yeah, I was thinking of maybe it could also be like you can actually like hit the edge of the chair and make it look like you're hitting the leg, even though you're not actually hitting the leg, sort of thing. So
there's a lot of sleight of hand that can make things like that happen on stage.
That's right. That's called theater magic, everyone. Now we get back into seeing Joanna Gleason again, because we have Like Zis Like Zat, which is her dalliance with the police chief, which is a lovely song as well. Another great comedy beat from Joanna Gleason, where they've sung most of this song, and then there's these steps they're going to walk up, and she walks up like two and she's like, I'm done with this, and then she like just sits down and the song is over.
Yeah.
I think it's so funny that that's how the song basically ends.
I agree. I also just think it's a clever song of like a seduction song, but it's almost like Muriel is having to teach Andre how to seduce her.
Right. Yeah.
Which is very funny. It's just a funny conceit. It's like, no, you're not doing it right. You need to do this. You need to do that. And then by the end, of course, they're in love. But so it ends in the same way that a regular seduction song would end, but it doesn't. But it doesn't start in the same place, which is kind of fun.
We then go to The More We Dance. I think I'm
still tired from this song.
Is this the one where they're at the dance club type of thing? So Freddie's over in the wheelchair, and then the sailors come. Like it's that whole scene. Yeah, and then John Lithgow and Sherry are dancing, and there's like a whole like, and then the ensemble is dancing behind them. It's very tiring. Yeah, it looks tiring, I have to say. Like it's not a lot of cardio has to go into this.
Yeah, that's like the sprint of the second act.
Then we get them sequestered, so it's just Freddie and Christine alone, and it's like Love Is My Legs, which I just think is a funny song title. It's just like such a weird thing to say. But this is where she convinces him to stand up for the first time and prove that his love for her has made him go past his like psychosomatic trauma so that he can actually stand again. Because we should say that like the whole conceit is that he's not paralyzed, it's that he saw a love of his life dancing with another man, and that caused him never not to be able to walk. Like that's basically what he said.
Because that makes sense.
Yeah, I mean, again, it was 1960s logic, okay? So like it makes sense.
Love is my legs, and you are my love. So you are my legs, my love. Finally I understand how hope is the hand that squeezes our heart and helps it to start once again.
Now stand up and walk to me.
I can't!
You can. Faith on the toes, attached to your feet, so I'll be your feet completely. Always there to strive in your socks, alive in your socks, no longer dejected, 2 feet resurrected, connected to legs which is love. Stand up, come to me. Love is your love.
He gets knocked out accidentally And then we have, we have Love Sneaks In. So this is the John Lithgow song. I really like this song too. I think this is such a sweet song of being like, oh, I didn't think I was, at my age, I didn't think I was going to ever be able to love again in my life. And somehow love sneaks in. And now I'm feeling emotions I haven't felt for in a long time. I think it's such a sweet little song.
And love sneaks in and whispers to you sweetly silly words that change your life completely. You're fumbling in the dark. The master's now the mark. You're out of luck if love sneaks in on you.
Yeah, it's also the moment where I think what we were talking about earlier is like the reason we can like go along with these people doing terrible things is that then a human emotion like this peeks through every once in a while.
Right.
To remind you, oh, these are human beings kind of just doing the best they can in a weird way.
And then we have Son of Great... Oh, actually, I think I misspoke. I think this is the part where he actually gets knocked out. Son of Great Big Stuff, because yeah, it is. Because it's like the two basically reprises of Great Big Stuff and her song that they kind of keep going back and forth with in the bedroom.
That's right. Yes, I do remember that now.
Then he gets knocked out, supposedly accidentally. The only thing I will say, this is like just such a minor nitpick for a show that I quite like, is those two songs don't really blend together very well, in my opinion. Like, I don't know what it is. And I guess maybe that's part of the point where it's like his brashness with her sweetness and they're trying to show that sort of thing.
Right. Yeah.
But it's just like, I don't know. It's just like such a hard stop into like a different type of song. And then back, I don't know. For some reason, it just doesn't really work for me a whole lot.
Yeah, I could definitely see that for sure. It never has bothered me particularly, but I understand where you're coming from.
Individually, those songs, very good when they kind of hard cut back and forth between them. On the album, if you download the original Broadway cast album, or if you purchase the CD or something, on the track listing, right after this point, you get a message from John Lithgow.
Hello, this is John Lithgow with a slight heads up to you listeners out there. If you haven't yet seen Dirty Rotten Scoundrels, the remaining tracks contain a few twists and turns of plot that could spoil your full enjoyment of the show. So turn off your stereos, go order tickets, hire the babysitter, and come back at a later date. If you have seen the show... Who
basically has to say, it's like 30 seconds long, and he basically announces the fact like, listen, if you've not seen the show before, there's some spoilers that are going to happen in the next few songs. So if you don't want to be spoiled, go and buy tickets to go and see the show. And if you have seen the show, go and buy tickets to come and see the show again. That's basically the joke. But it's he comes on and gives this like special announcement, which I think is fun.
Doesn't he say something like, I have children in college or something?
Oh yeah, children in college, I have a lot of debts and I love clothes or something like that. I think that's the joke they end on. By the way, I'm going to get back up on my soapbox. I think more cast albums should do stuff like this. I think they should do stuff that only the album has, whether it's a special little message or like, I don't know, some alternate thing. Just because it is an audio only medium, you're not seeing the visuals to it. I think you can have just a lot more fun with cast albums. And because I always go to the, I don't know if you've listened to Ride the Cyclone. Ride the Cyclone.
Oh, Ride the Cyclone. Yes.
Where they, they don't make up new songs, but they actually kind of changed the script a little bit from what it would be on the stage show. So they have a lot of fun with that cast album. And then the machine, like from Big, that is like the narrator for that show,
yes.
breaks in all the time. Is like, I don't say this in the show, but I'm going to say it now because this is an audio only medium and you don't know what's happening. And so he'll just like kind of narrate what's going on, which I think is fun.
Right. And then the one I always think of is also like the original Mystery of Edwin Drood cast album. From there was a message from the chairman, and George Rose just breaks in and says, at this point the show could be any ending, so go to your favorite track and pick your own ending, as it were.
I love that stuff. So then we get the reckoning, so everyone kind of figures out what's happening here. Which essentially is she knocked him out intentionally, stole his clothes, came back and saw the older con artist as he sends her off onto the plane. She says, I'm going to give you back this money that you were going to give to me anyways. I don't need it anymore. Only to find out that that's where the clothes are. So she swindled them out of $50,000. And they're both worse off than they were before. But And I think she calls herself the Jackal, right? There's a little note in the briefcase that she leaves behind.
Well, yeah,
but they're a little bit
actually,
impressed the fact that they got swindled.
Yeah, it's actually a little thread throughout the show where every once in a while you hear about this con artist, the Jackal.
That's true.
It's just kind of like it's like Chekhov's Jackal. It's like it's going to come up eventually, and then
that's right. You know what Chekhov said? If you mention a jackal in the first act, you have to pay that off in the second.
That's exactly what he said. I have no idea what you're talking about. No.
And then we have what we think feels like the finale, which is the Dirty Rotten number. So they kind of be like, well, we're off. We're here by our two selves here now. We got swindled, but hey, we can continue being kind of dirty, rotten guys and go back to our old ways.
It was a blast, it was a ball, it was a gas. I loved it all, cause I was hanging with the man and at the blood.
You've got the burn.
You got the guts.
You got the nerve.
You got the nuts.
I guess we're dirty, rotten.
We're dirty, rotten
Dirty,
skunks.
rotten.
Oh, it was a trip, it was a blast, it was a shame it couldn't last, cause it was almost too ridiculous to discuss.
So we got screwed for 50 grand.
I think we still deserve a hand. Dirty, rotten guy like us.
Which is fun until we get swooped in and it's Christine returning into the show to have her last grift of being a travel agent of sorts and trying to trick old Greek men out of their money.
Right.
And that's essentially how the show ends, is basically them kind of coming like, oh, we should all three work together to get money out of these people rather than
let's keep
ourselves.
Being bad people together.
That's right. Misery loves company and awful people like threesomes, I guess. I don't know what the... you know that old saying.
Yeah, no, I say it all the time.
So yeah, and that's the show. Curtain and bows happen after that, and it's like I say, like lovely show, fun. I think the music's really good inside of it. There's some lyrics in there that are like funny and smart. Yeah, good time at the theater.
It is. It's a very good time, and it was, as I recall, it was quite successful at the time. It ran for a year and a half, something like that, maybe a little
longer.
longer.
Let's find out. Let's see what it says here. It should tell me how many performances it ran.
I knew it ran long enough for there to be some replacements. Like Jonathan Pryce came in and played the John Lithgow part.
Yeah, 626 performances is what it had. So yeah, a good long run, really.
Yeah, that's
a year and a half, probably roughly.
Had nothing to shake a stick at all.
Mm-hmm. As a lot of people say, like any show that runs for a year and a half is kind of a miracle at this point.
It's true. It's only gotten worse.
You're in New York currently, right?
I am.
Yeah, I mean, talking about like a flood of new shows that are coming out this next Broadway season, like something like 18 new shows, like that's both plays and musicals. Like it's crazy how much new stuff is coming in.
It's a lot. Yeah, it's this, but that's just, it's the way, it's, with how expensive things are now. It's just kind of the way, unfortunately.
That's the other line that made me laugh in this show. But again, it's like, oh boy. In 2004, if you thought things were bad, which is like he wants to be rich so that he can afford to go to a Broadway show. Like that's the joke.
Yeah. It's hilarious and only has gotten more true.
Yeah, but then they see like I know it's not every ticket, so I know that, but when I see like specific tickets for the Merrily revival being $900, I'm like, that is obscene. That is obscene.
I know I'm just like, I'm glad the cast album exists.
Yeah, right. A couple, I guess, questions here to round things out here. But is there any new or I guess returning show that you're the most excited for in the upcoming season that you've heard being announced?
I'm really excited about a show called Limpica. About the artist.
I listened to the 3 songs that are on the concept album that's been released.
Yeah. And I liked the people involved in it. I liked those 3 songs. I thought they were, they were very good. They were smart, well put together. And, I like just like people. I often like shows that just kind of like seem like they want to just, it's not something, it's not it's based on a person. It's not based on a movie. It's just and it's just throwing out an idea. So I'm actually really excited for that one. Do you have one?
Well, that one definitely is like high up on my list because I'd love to see what the full production looks like and feels like. And I want a whole cast album, really, after listening to those 3 songs, because I want to see how that all fits together. Mostly because they felt similar. But from what I've heard is like anyone who's seen like a run through or like the workshop version, they're like, this is amazing. So I was like, okay, I want to see what the full production actually looks like. Past that, honestly, this is gonna sound weird, being this is about musicals, but it's actually a play that I would love to see, which is the Uncle Vanya that's coming to New York, which is like
my roommate is very
cast.
excited about that one. Yeah.
So if I had a ticket that I could go to, like right now, that's probably what I would go and see.
Yeah, I mean that cast is remarkable, and it's just so stacked
to the point where the best like play revival, like they should just hand out the Tony Award to them like on opening night. Like this is like no point. Like it's gonna go to them. We know.
Well, and I know it's a new translation too.
Yes, that's right.
By Heidi Schreck, I believe.
Yes, who I'm a big fan of too.
Yes, What the Constitution Means to Me is a great show.
Great. So good. Yeah.
I think that's going to be a great show. Yeah, absolutely.
Mm-hmm. And then where can people find you to stay in contact with you if they'd like to do so?
I am on all social medias at JS Chisolm, CHISOLM 22. You can follow me to find out where I'm performing next, or just, fun, posts about musical theater, things like that. I keep it pretty simple on my social medias.
Yeah. Now, because this is going up in probably like 3 days from now, from when we're recording, is there something like relatively quickly that people could come and check you out at?
Yeah, if you happen to be on the West Coast of the United States, I will be touring with the Christmas show for the Golden Gays, which is a Golden Girls drag troupe that does original musicals based on the Golden Girls.
Love it.
And I will be playing the Blanche Devereaux, channeling my Georgian roots. And we just had our first show here not here, but in New Jersey last week. It was very successful. People really enjoyed it. And this troupe has been around since 2017, and they have a really huge following. So if you see us coming through your town, please come out and see us, where it's a really good time.
Is that staying in the US or is there any Canadian dates?
There's no Canadian. We're going to Mexico, though.
Oh, well, that'll be fun.
Yeah.
So because this is a Sondheim adjacent, one of our bonus episodes, you do get to choose what song plays us out here this month. I guess you can pick something from Dirty Rotten Scoundrels, or if there's another song you want us to be played out with, that's also your choice.
I think, you know what? I would love to hear Like This, Like That.
Okay. We'll do that. That's what we'll play us out with. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Kyle.
So let's live in the here and now. Let it show us how to find a way to lose control. Like that, the rose, delightful to the nose, but nowhere near as perfect as a kiss.
And though I am no prince,
No prince,
my looks may make you wince.
no wince,
I offer you romance.
romance.
Come on, let's dance.